So the next article I wanted to look at is titled Evangelist, God Sent Donald Trump to Stop the Flood of Evil That Is Joe Biden. This is actually released on September 11th by Beth Stoneburner on the Friendly Atheist website. This is only one article that I wanted to look at. There's another article I wanted to look at that released just the other day called Evangelist, The Only Way Biden Could Be President Is If Americans Are Idiots. So let's start off with the first article just to introduce who this guy is. And then we got some clips to watch. Last year, evangelist Mario Murillo fought Satan over control of a California highway. More recently, he claimed Democrats opposed Donald Trump because they hate the Bible, even though that's nowhere in the list of reasons, and even though most Democrats are Bible believers. With no one in his life willing to challenge him on this, Murillo is still spreading these lies. Last Friday, during an appearance on Sid Roth's It's Supernatural channel on YouTube, Murillo said God sent Donald Trump to save people from the Democrats. So let's watch this video and see what this guy had to say for himself.
People accuse me of telling you to leave the Democratic Party. You need to wake up. The Democratic Party is asking you to leave forcefully. They took the flag out of their convention. They took God out of the pledge.
No. What? What is he talking about? No to all of that. I feel like this is just straight up propaganda. In fact, it is propaganda. That's exactly what this is. Whether that was true or not, this is propaganda designed to make you hate the Democrat Party.
They've made it eminently clear that they are the party of not Christianity.
Wait, what does that mean? They're the party of not Christianity? I didn't know that not Christianity had a party. Does Christianity have a party? Is that what he's saying? Because I would find it fascinating if they would admit that the Republican Party is the party of Christianity. I don't think that they'd have too much trouble admitting that, probably, if they were pressed. But that's really disturbing. The fact that a political party is controlled and endorsed by Christianity broadly, or more specifically by evangelical Christians, that should raise red flags.
That all of you watching are faced with the ultimate choice. Do I vote for evil, or do I accept God's rescue?
Again, the good versus evil mentality appearing. This is on the bite model. If a group is trying to tell you that they are good and the other people are evil, and you need to be in support of the good group rather than the evil group in this way, like this, you should be watching out. That should be a red flag for you. There is something wrong here.
You know, when Jesus came toward Jerusalem, it's the most ironic scene, Sid, because the masses are hailing him as the Messiah. They're putting the palm leaves down, and as he gets closer, the adulation is having no effect on him because he begins to cry. And he says, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, how often I would have gathered you in, but you would not. They were literally ignoring their own rescue from God. Trump is a rough cure because we lost our right for a soft cure.
That's fascinating that he views it that way. He's a rough cure because we lost our right to a soft cure? What does he mean by that? I find it so interesting that a lot of these Christian, like evangelicals, they seem to recognize and acknowledge even that Trump isn't a good Christian. Or maybe he isn't a Christian at all, but they've found a justification for supporting him anyways in the Cyrus anointing. The idea that King Cyrus freed the Jews from captivity in Babylon and brought them back to Jerusalem in Isaiah 45. So they've assigned Trump the status of King Cyrus, basically, having the Cyrus anointing, because that was described in Isaiah 45, and Trump is the 45th president. They've linked those two things together. He is part of their theology now. I find it so interesting that they've found a way to meld somebody who is not Christian, obviously, or not a good Christian anyways, meld him into their theology anyways. Let's keep listening.
Our sin did that. Now we have a man who's a wrecking ball. but he's in God's hands. And you need to understand, by voting for Trump, you are stopping a flood of evil in our nation. It is absolutely undeniable. And whenever I meet what is, quote unquote, a woke Christian, oh, I don't like Trump, I don't believe he's Christian, I look at it, what is your alternative?
So he's not even denying that Trump isn't a Christian, I guess. He doesn't even care that Trump isn't a Christian. He's fine with that. He's okay with the fact that Trump is just like a moral monster, even in this guy's eyes, a moral monster. But he's being used by God to accomplish God's goals, basically. He's just acknowledging flat out that Trump is a bad person and God is using him to his own ends.
I look at it, what is your alternative? What you need to ask yourself is what Dietrich Bonhoeffer asked Germany. What are you doing to stop Hitler?
Oh, wow. Okay. It went there. That went from 0 to 60 in like 3 seconds.
And what are you doing to stop the socialist destruction of the United States?
Okay, let me ask you guys something. All right. Let me give you guys a for instance. So I have a nonprofit, still awaiting tax-exempt status. Apostate Refuge is the name, right? And the structure of this nonprofit organization is such that it has a board. Nobody owns it. It is its own separate entity. There is no CEO. There is no owner, no nothing, okay? The way that this nonprofit is set up is there is a board that votes on things, including who is on the board. Like who's the president, who's the vice president, who's a board member, and all of the other stuff. Every position in the company is voted upon. Pay is voted upon. Everybody votes for how much people should be paid and what we do and all of this other stuff. It's basically just a big democratic system, right? That's how the company is structured. Juxtapose that against a traditional company, a capitalist company, if you will, that is owned by somebody. Somebody has controlling share and they call all of the shots for everything and all of the revenue goes in their pocket at the end of the day. That's not how a nonprofit is structured. What would you say if every private company in the United States was structured like that nonprofit was? There was no owner who got every penny at the end of the day. There is just somebody who started it and is now an employee there and is beholden to the other employees. Like if I start a company, the employees vote on how much I get paid for my work, and I vote on how much they get paid for their work, that kind of thing. How would you guys feel about that? That is socialism. That's what socialism actually is. At its core, socialism is the idea that there are no private companies in the U.S. There are only public companies where the workers vote on things. The workers vote on who fills which slots, or they vote in a representative who hires people into certain slots. They vote on how much pay people get and the whole 9 yards. It's basically turning companies from an authoritarian structure to a democratic structure. That's basically what socialism is on an economic level, like on a private company level. And then there are some socialist policies like, Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid and things like that. Those would be socialist programs. How would you guys feel about that? I don't think that I want it personally, but I would really like to throw off all of the bullshit propaganda that you hear about socialism, like this guy was feeding to us just a minute ago.
And what are you doing to stop the socialist destruction of the United States?
What are you doing to stop this socialist destruction of the U.S.? I don't think the U.S. is in any danger of abolishing private companies in favor of public companies that are run by a board and voted on by employees. I don't think that we're really at risk of dealing with that. I feel like he's really misusing the term socialist here. Like I said, personally, I don't think think that I'm a fan of that specifically, but I would like to see us move in a more progressive direction. I think a step in between where we are in socialism that I'd be okay with is baking unions right into every company. The moment you have 5 employees or more, they form a union automatically. It's automatic. They get a union rep and everything. One of them is picked as a union rep. It's a legal requirement that there's a union. I think that would be a good step in the right direction. I would like to see that. Anyways, let's get back to the story and see what Beth Stoneburner had to say. The Christian nationalism here is toxic and its own form of idolatry. It's also wildly wrong. The Pledge of Allegiance still includes under God, which for those who weren't paying attention in high school history class, wasn't in the original version. Right, that was added in the 1950s, I think. And yes, there were flags, plural, throughout the Democratic National Convention, including during the most important speech of the event. Wow, check that shit out. That's interesting, isn't it? There were flags there after all. Murillo went on, quote, "By voting for Trump, you're stopping a flood of evil in our nation. It is absolutely undeniable. What are you doing to stop Hitler? And what are you doing to stop the socialist destruction of the United States?" This is Beth Stoneburner again. Comparing Biden to Hitler is bizarre on its own. It's especially nonsensical when literal neo-Nazis support Trump. If you've seen the evil that's befallen our nation over the past 4 years and think that a return to human decency with a president who supports expanding health care, defending civil rights, reducing poverty, and a host of other progressive ideas, even if they often don't go far enough, is somehow a hellscape we need to fear, then I can't help you. Murillo is fighting an enemy that exists only in his imagination. Not a big surprise. That's the kind of thing I've come to expect from evangelical extremists, honestly. But that's not where the story ends. It goes on. There's another video clip by this same guy, Murillo, about the election. This is after the election took place. The one we just read was before the election, where he was trying to persuade people. This is after the election that they lost. And this one is by Beth Stoneburner also, so let's give it a read and see what it says. Christian evangelist Mario Murillo, who claimed God sent Donald Trump to save people from Democrats and that none of the Capitol rioters were Trump supporters, is still having a hard time dealing with the new administration. Last week, he claimed that Joe Biden couldn't possibly be president because surely the majority of voters couldn't be that stupid. So let's watch this video clip and see what he had to say for himself.
You have one of two choices when you look at Biden. And the best answer is that it's fraud that put him in there. Because the other one is that America is really stupid.
I love it. So there are only two options. Either it was fraud or Americans are stupid, huh?
And I don't really want to face the fact that America is stupid.
Come on.
How could America decide to put a man in office when the economy was doing great?
Okay, hold on a second. Since when do facts care about your feelings? Last I heard, facts don't care about your feelings. So this guy is telling us he doesn't want to face the fact that America is stupid, according to him, quote unquote. So he's going to believe instead that there was cheating involved. Does that really logically add up?
Could America decide to put a man in office when the economy was doing great, when our stature in the world was being elevated, when
No to all of that. No to all of that. There is a ton of shit that Trump could have done to try to resolve the problems with the virus. For example, encouraging people to wear masks. He could have encouraged people to wear masks, and that would have led to way less death and pain and suffering. There is so much Trump could have done to make this better. Not lied about hydroxychloroquine. That's another thing he could have done. Kept his fucking mouth shut about it because it was worthless in the end. Listen to the scientists. Any number of things. And that would have helped the economy recover a little bit faster. Now, aside from that, I want to point out that before the virus, the economy was trending upward. The reason for that is because it naturally trends upwards. This is how the stock market works. We have index stocks, right? We have the NASDAQ and the Dow Jones Industrial Averages. Those things are basically a list of companies that are really, really big from all different industries. They view those companies as representing the American economy, right? So we've got like Netflix, and we've got Tesla, and we've got like CNN and Comcast and just a whole bunch of others. I don't know what the full list is. You can look it up if you want. Just look up Dow Jones Industrial Average Index stocks or something like that, and it'll give you the full list of stocks that are included in that, okay? So we have a list of, let's say, 100 companies that are on the stock market. 100 companies that are on the stock market. What happens when one of those companies fails? Let's say Netflix just completely goes under. What happens? They're removed from the index. That's what happens. They're no longer included in that list. So let's say Netflix is worth like $60. Tesla is worth like $500. Google is worth like $1,000, right? So that's $1,560. If Netflix goes under, it's no longer worth $60. It's worth just nothing, and it's removed, and it's replaced with a different company. That's how the industrial average works. For that reason, since that's how it works, the stock market will always trend upward. It will always trend upward. It's not a reflection of the economy at all. It doesn't reflect the millions of people who are out of work right now because of the pandemic. The only thing it reflects is investor confidence, really. It only reflects how confident people are that these companies are going to be able to weather a storm or some kind of issue in the company. It only reflects how confident investors are that these companies are going to do really, really well in the future. If a company fails, it's removed from the index and replaced with something different. So I don't want to hear this bullshit line that we had an awesome economy under Trump. The stock market is not a representation of the economy, and it was doing exactly what it's always done and what it always will do. Trend upward. Does not reflect the economy.
Man in office when the economy was doing great, when our stature in the world was being elevated, when China was putting pushback on her heels, when Europe was starting to pay their fair share of NATO, and we looked at it, and this man got the highest percentage of minority votes of any president that was ever Republican. He got 12 million more votes than Obama did when Obama was reelected.
But you know who got even more votes than that? Joe Biden did.
And it's so much easier to believe it's fraud. It goes down easier. I can swallow that.
Oh, this is the part where I feel I should say facts don't care about your feelings.
Otherwise, I have to believe that Americans are idiots and that they would willfully put themselves in a position where a career politician, like you said, with a rap sheet that absolutely is unbelievable, is actually our president. It's easier just to believe the truth, which is something nasty was done to us.
Rap sheet? What is he talking about? Joe Biden has a rap sheet? Correct me if I'm wrong. A rap sheet is like a list of like criminal offenses that you've been to court for, right? Does Joe Biden have any criminal offenses under his belt? Not as far as I know. I haven't heard a word about that. I know Donald Trump does, on the other hand. And which is more trustworthy, a reality TV star with a rap sheet or a career politician? Just in the cold light of day, those two options and no other information, I would say, in my opinion, they're both equally as untrustworthy. But we have the context and information we need to make an informed decision on this. And I happen to know that Joe Biden's policy positions align with mine a lot closer than Donald Trump's, and he has lived up to those policy positions. He has filed executive orders that I agree with in large part. So I'm glad that Biden is in rather than Trump. I don't know where this guy's head is at, that he thinks it's a good idea to say it's easier to swallow that there was cheating happening rather than Americans voted against my guy that I like so much. Where is his head at? Seriously. Did anybody hear me saying that shit after Hillary Clinton lost? You know, I would rather think that somebody cheated because it's easier for me to deal with to know that Hillary was cheated out of the presidency. It's easier for me to deal with that. So I'm going to believe that somebody cheated rather than she lost. Just fucking deal with it. I know you don't like it, but like I said, facts don't care about your feelings. That's just what it is, man. Trump lost, and here we are. So let's give this article a read and see what Beth Stoneburner had to say about the video. Look, Biden isn't the president progressives dreamed about, but he's one we'll gladly accept given the alternative in November. It wasn't a contest as to who was more qualified or mature or compassionate, and Murillo, like so many Republicans, fails to grasp just how much so many people despised Trump. Gotta hand it to him, though. That is one sick burn, calling the majority of Americans stupid for wanting affordable health care, stimulus checks, someone who takes the virus seriously, raises the minimum wage, and offers a more humane response to immigrants. What does his insult say about himself? I don't know how people like this go to sleep at night and, they just live in a completely separate reality from us, seriously. They live in a completely separate false reality from us. They buy into conspiracy theories and spread them like wildfire. It's like this guy that we're looking at here is your uncle on Facebook. That's all he does. He gets on Facebook every day and looks at conspiracy theories and then comes to Thanksgiving dinner and tries to cram them down your throat. That's what this is like. And sadly, a disturbing percentage of Americans buy into this shit too. Between 25 and 40%, I would say, buy into a lot of these right-wing extreme conspiracies. We're going to have to find a way to deal with this at some point.